But I am pretty happy with Hi everyone, and welcome back to Big City B. I'm B for those of you who are just joining me for the first time. Today is going to be my October wrap-up. For the month of October, I participated in 2 different readathons. The Black Aweenathon by Bree from the Lockbooktician, and also Fortnite Frights by Seji from the Artisan Geek. So the month of October, I was pretty ambitious. I had done 2 separate TBRs for the different readathons. For the Black Aweenathon, I had said that I was going to read 8 books. And then for Fortnite Fright, I said I was gonna read another 5. 13 books. B, what were you thinking? There was no freaking way. But I am pretty happy with what I did end up reading because I read 8 books. That's pretty good, right? For someone who has a full-time job and is not just able to just read all the time, 8 books in a month is pretty freaking fantastic, I would say. And I did have a little bit of overlap between the Black Aweenathon books and the Fortnite Fright books. So while a majority of the books that I read were actually for Black Aweenathon, they also could fit into the Fortnite Fright prompts. So let's get into the books that I actually read this month. The first book that I read this month was The Devil in Silver by Victor LaValle. Obviously, I already have a review up about this book, so I liked it, and I ended up giving it 4 honey pots. It's a cool modern retelling of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with a little bit more elements of gore and classic horror elements to it. The second book that I read was Hadriana in All My Dreams by Rene Depestre. Okay, we're gonna really Frenchify this name. Rene Depestre. I don't think that's right at all, but you know, c'est la vie. This book is a Haitian classic that talks about the zombie people, or people who were given a potion that made them seem like they were dead, and then their graves were dug up and they were not in them. And what happened is that the people who had given them the potion would dig them up out of their grave and sell them for different kind of work, whether that be a prostitution work or working on a farm. So this book follows a boy who was in love with this girl, Hadriana, and she ends up dead on the night of her wedding, and the story goes on from there. But I thought this book was interesting to see some Haitian aspects of life, and I really enjoyed the funeral scene in Hadriana in All My Dreams with the voodoo aspects. I just thought it was really interesting. I gave that 3 honey pots. The third book that I read was Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. This was one of the have-to-read books for the Black Aweenathon. This is a classic American tale. James Baldwin is an author who's known for writing about LGBTQ relationships and being an advocate for the LGBTQ community. That being said, I wasn't a huge fan of this book. To me, it felt a little bit meandering, and there was a strange undercurrent of just hating women within the book, which I didn't know how to feel about. But overall, I just felt like this book wasn't for me, but it was a classic, and I'm glad I got the chance to read it, so I gave it 3 honey pots. The fourth book that I read was We're Going to Need More Wine by Gabrielle Union. This is her biography, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't know a whole lot about Gabrielle Union, but then when I found out she's from Omaha, Nebraska, I was like, hey, what's up? Because I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. But in all seriousness, I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the topics that she brought up, and especially the topic of colorism within the Black community, of people who have lighter skin are seen as more beautiful than people who have darker skin. And I thought that was really interesting. Because let's be honest, if you're white and you have a tan, you're looking good, but if you're pale, you're not looking good. So it's kind of the opposite there. But it was just an issue that I had never really thought about before, so it's opened up a new avenue of something that I'd like to explore and learn a little bit more about. I just really enjoyed this one, and I don't know, if she has more books, I'd read those too. If she has more biographies, I'd read those too. And I am not a biography person. I really don't like biographies. But I gave this one a 4 honeypot. The 5th book I read was The Gilda Stories by Jewelle Gomez. I don't know when I'm gonna put this out, but I will probably have just put out the review of The Gilda Stories, so you'll know whether I recommend it or not. But this one follows LGBTQ vampires, specifically Gilda, through her 200-year journey as being a vampire and dealing with how she deals with being a vampire versus wanting to maintain some of her humanity. This one I also really enjoyed, more than I thought I was going to, and I gave it a 4 honeypot. The 6th book that I was able to read this month was A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. And oh my gosh, why didn't I read this before, guys? I really enjoyed this one. It was fantasy. You had the myths of the different mythical creatures. It was fantastic, and I did kind of call the twist at the end. I kind of knew it was coming, but I still give this one 4 honeypots for just being creative with the whole storyline. I felt that the 2 different perspectives within the stories, switching of the 2 girls, was really great as well, and I thought it was a sweet book. The 7th book that I read this month was Catherine House by Elisabeth Thomas. This book I was disappointed in. I wanted this book to be really great. It seemed like it was gonna be a psychological thriller of this creepy school that's in the backwoods of Pennsylvania, and just really creepy, and maybe some brainwashing going on, and some of that did happen, but overall I felt the book was so uneventful. And I was so disappointed because I really wanted to like it, but I just couldn't. Nothing happened throughout the book except for the last 2-3 chapters. It was just disappointing. I felt like it could have gone in such a great direction, and unfortunately it just didn't go there. So 2 honeypots for Catherine House. The 8th book that I was able to read for October was The Owls Have Come to Take Us Away by Ronald L. Smith. After reading Catherine House, I just needed something light, and it was nice because it is more of a middle grade young YA book, and so it was a little bit easier to read. It was shorter. It's about aliens and the US government knowing that aliens exist and not telling the American people, and this 12-year-old boy who's been contacted by the aliens and no one believes him. So I enjoyed this book. I read it in 2 days, I believe, and it was light. It made me a little nervous for a lot of the book because I was like, what if no one ever believes him and he just gets locked away in an insane asylum? I was just a little worried for the main character, but it ends on a happy note. That's all I'm gonna tell you. So I gave this one 3 honeypots, and for a more middle grade young YA book, I had to try to think of it if I was the targeted age group reading it, would I reread it again? And I probably wouldn't reread it again, but I did like the book. So that's where we get the 3 honeypots from. So that concludes my October wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you found a book that you want to look into, you want to check out. If so, leave me a comment down below. I am really happy with my month. I found books and authors that I wouldn't have found by myself. So thank you to Bree from The Locked Booktician and Seji from Artisan Geek for just having these book resources available and these readathons. You both did a ton of work to put them on, and I'm just really thankful that I was able to participate, and I look forward to participating in both of them again next year. Alrighty everyone, that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed for future videos. All the best always. Bye.